Hello and welcome to Conservative Arkansas Media. My name is Paul Harrell. Thank you so much for being with us today. Merry Christmas. It is the Friday before Christmas, December the 22nd. And I know a lot of you out there, just like me, have still not bought the presents that you need to buy. Maybe not even one. But you know, procrastination is a huge problem around this time of year. So let's just hope that everybody gets the presents that they're supposed to get and get the shopping done that they're supposed to get, if that is your thing. So I'm telling you, what a year it has been, from the legislative session in January all the way to, we're now essentially at the end. You know, one of the key things, a couple of key things that the Arkansas legislature did this year, aside from protecting kids from sexual deviance, attempting to do that, and there's more work to be done there, but a couple of things. They had the LEARNS Act. That was a big deal. Also, you had criminal justice reform, which is in the headlines, or at least the derivatives of that decision, of that new law, the criminal justice reform, we are seeing right now in the headlines on a daily basis. Right now, the governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as well as the Attorney General, Tim Griffin, are in a power struggle. Quite frankly, I don't think there's any way, you can't really put it any other way. They're in a power struggle between the governor, the Attorney General on one side, and the Arkansas Board of Corrections that have to do with prisons. They govern our prison system, and who's got more power? There's now a lawsuit that's been filed. It's just incredible. I honestly can't believe it. And it has to do with this guy by the name of the chairman of the correction board, Benny Magnus. So you have, again, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and then the Attorney General Tim Griffin versus Benny Magnus and the Arkansas Corrections Board. And things just kind of keep ratcheting up. Even this morning, the governor releasing a letter essentially requesting that Benny Magnus resign. We're going to try to get to the bottom of this, but in order to do that, we're going to have to go to the screen and kind of back up a little bit. From about a month ago, so back on November the 22nd, let me throw this up here on your screen. Back on November 22nd, you have this headline from the ABC 7. Arkansas Corrections Board responds to criticism, defends decision against more prison beds amidst overcrowding. Okay, so one of the things that happened here that was controversial is that, the governor's office decided, that we need more prison beds. And we do. We do need more capacity. We have county jails. This has been a criticism for as long as I can remember, a problem. This has been a problem for as long as I remember been covering Arkansas politics. That you have county jails that are overcrowded. They're having to take what the state can't handle because the state doesn't have the right infrastructure, doesn't have enough beds, okay? And so this is a huge problem. But, you have, under the criminal justice reform, you've got the request now that was brought before the Arkansas Corrections Board for more beds, and the Arkansas Corrections Board rejects it. Let's look right here, okay? So we'll read the story. So Monday, again, this was back in November, right before Thanksgiving, all right? And again, everything's just ratcheted up since then. Monday, Arkansas Board of Corrections Chairman Benny Magnus penned a letter to Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Attorney General Tim Griffin in response to a press conference held last Friday in which Sanders, Griffin, and other state officials accused the Board of Corrections of standing in the way of prison reform in light of severe overcrowding in the state's correctional units. The letter from Magnus, though calling for cooperation and communication between the Board of Corrections and the governor's office and state legislature, was scathing in his criticism of the governor and Griffin's statements, as well as what he expressed as their misunderstanding of his stance, as well as Arkansas's prison system. So some of this started when there was a press conference, I believe, press conference between the governor and Tim Griffin, and they launched these criticisms. Griffin condemned the board as well, saying it failed to approve 500 additional prison beds and demonstrated how out of touch with reality they are. Now, backing up, during last Friday's press conference, Governor Sarah asserted that Arkansas's corrections policies were broken and that some in those positions of leadership are still playing games that put Arkansans in harm's way. Tim Griffin echoed that. The crux of the controversy, ABC7 writes, is the Arkansas Department of Corrections Secretary Joe Porfiry's request. So the secretary, under this is the big crux here, under the new criminal justice law that was passed earlier this year, it moved the secretary, Joe Porfiry's, essentially, he works for the governor now. No longer really works and answers to the Arkansas Department of Corrections. He serves at the pleasure of the governor, Secretary Joe Porfiry. And this has made the Arkansas Prison Board upset. Okay, so the Arkansas Department of Corrections, Joe Porfiry, requested additional 622 beds to correctional facilities around the state, which the Board of Corrections denied back on November 6th. Again, this article written on November 21st. Magnus defended the board's decision in his letter, saying that Porfiry did not attend the November 6th meeting and his request was provided only minutes before the meeting began. Magnus also said that of the 622 additional beds requested by Porfiry, 428 were proposed for a critically understaffed correctional use. Now, okay, so I don't know if this is inside baseball or not. All I can tell you is what I heard when the criminal justice reform bill was going around. The number one criticism I heard of it, even though I think it's a good idea, I thought it was a good idea, I support it, but the number one thing that I heard from people who were worried about it was, okay, that's great, we're going to expand all this, but are you going to staff it properly? That's the number one criticism I heard. The number one caution was, that's great, more beds, whatever, we need to build new prisons, and we need to, there's a lot of stuff we need to do, but are they going to be able to properly staff these prisons to where they can actually safely handle all of the prisoners? I don't know if there's any merit to those fears. All I'm saying is that's what I can report to you that's what the fears were that I heard. Magnus also said that of the 622 additional beds requested by Porfiry, 428 were proposed for critically understaffed correctional units, some just over the 60% staffed, according to Magnus, who said, though the board approved a temporary increase for 2 facilities, it had additional questions and concerns that need to be addressed. All right. In his letter, Magnus took Porfiry to task for failing to provide any information necessary for the board's ability to consider the propriety of the full request, and it goes on and on and on. It says that Porfiry failed to supply information as the steps taken to increase the number of officers needed to provide security. And this is ratcheted up because now they're wanting to call in the National Guard, or the board is. We'll tell you that here in a minute. The Division of Corrections lacks the resources to overcrowd prisons and to do otherwise would place our officers, inmates, and public at risk. He says, this leads to my second broader concern, Magnus says, in calling on the board to do what is needed to protect our people. It was suggested at a press conference that the board's bureaucratic red tape is the only impediment to a safer, stronger Arkansas. With utmost respect, the red tape that you reference is the Arkansas Constitution, and I vehemently disagree that the Arkansas Constitution is bureaucratic red tape. So here we go, man. This is, oh, man. Hey, look, there's no secret that Arkansas is a bureaucratic state, though. Come on. There is no, let's just be real. I mean, if you look at all of the different licensing boards, and I've said this for years, we've got more licensing boards than, last I checked, than the state of New York. Okay? Arkansas is a very bureaucratic state. After all, this is the state that had the bureaucracy that gave birth to arguably the most powerful political family in the world, the Clintons. Okay? So you're welcome, world. I don't think that's a good thing, by the way. I don't think we need to be happy that Arkansas gave the world to the Clintons. Or I'm sorry, gave the Clintons to the world, and in so doing, pretty much gave the world to the Clintons, right? Epstein Island. All right, so what else do we have here? Magnus had so this is a giant showdown. Let's throw another headline up there real quick. Magnus to sue state Arkansas Prison Board, Magnus to sue state, try to suspend Secretary of Corrections. So Profiri, then they want to suspend him from his job, and they're citing their authority under the Arkansas Constitution. Now, the last article you saw was from November 21st. Fast forward to December 15th. I don't know, can you see that on your screen? December 14th. Now things have gotten serious. Arkansas Prison, this is from the Mountain Home Observer. Arkansas's Prison Oversight Board voted Thursday to suspend Secretary of Corrections Joe Profiri, who, by the way, was defiant, and decided, no, I'm going to keep serving the governor, who promptly responded that he plans to ignore the directive and continue working. Quote, I'm reporting in my office right now, and I'll be here tomorrow, Profiri said in a brief interview after a special meeting of the Board of Corrections. The board, in turn, plans to file a lawsuit against several new state laws that weaken its authority and laid the groundwork for an ongoing dispute between the board, Profiri, and Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Chairman Benny Magnus said the 7-member body would ask a judge for a temporary restraining order enjoining Profiri from working while the constitutional dispute is litigated. We're going to get to the Constitution here in a minute because there is something educational we can learn from this. At least I hope so. We feel like we're in a legal state that we just should consider appealing to a higher authority with the impasse we're having, Magnus said. The impasse stems from a pair of new state laws enacted during this year's legislative session that the board argues are unconstitutional. The acts move that the state secretary of corrections and director of the Division of Correction from under the board. The secretary now serves at the pleasure of the governor instead of the board, and the director of corrections serves at the pleasure of the secretary. Okay, I might have gotten my wires crossed there a little bit, but you get the gist. There was a power shift. The criminal justice bill was a power shift from the way things have always been done, or have been done for a very long time, to something new, right? It's a reform. That's the whole point of the word reform. The board doesn't like it, obviously, because they're losing power. Now, a judge will have to decide whether or not that power has been illegally taken from them because of Amendment 33 of the Arkansas Constitution. More on that in a minute. So that's the escalation there. So here's the Arkansas Secretary of Corrections, Joe Profiri. That's what he looks like. And we showed you what Benny Magnus looks like earlier. That's Benny Magnus. Okay. All right, fast forward a little bit further. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, December 21st, yesterday. Let me get my picture out of there for a second. Yesterday, Board of Corrections chairman is seeking activation of the National Guard to help fill in staffing gaps. Now, this is kind of a shot across Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' bow, if you will. Josh Snyder writing this, the chairman of the Arkansas Board of Corrections has asked Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders to activate 138 National Guardsmen to bolster the state prison system staff. Benny Magnus made the request in a letter to Sanders on Wednesday to help fill in staffing gaps with the Division of Correction. I don't know what he was thinking here. I don't know if he was thinking this was like going to be an olive branch. Surely not. He asked the 40 National Guardsmen to be activated and serve in non-inmate supervisory security positions at the Maximum Security Unit in England, as well as the Tucker Unit. The Guardsmen would fill the positions. Okay, so he wants to activate the Guard. They say that the Guard wouldn't directly supervise the inmates. Strategy is new to Arkansas, but it's been tried in other states. Now, as of yesterday, Sanders' office has not responded. That is not the case as of the time of this recording. Governor's office spokesperson Alexa Henning did not immediately respond. And, of course, we know the background here. So fast forward to today. And we have this headline. Breaking. Sanders calls on Benny Magnus to resign as Arkansas Board of Corrections chairman. Michael Wickline with this story. And there he is again. So, What does this say? Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders is calling on Arkansas Board of Corrections Chairman Benny Magnus to resign immediately. In a letter to Magnus released Friday morning, the Republican governor wrote that she is in receipt of his letter requesting that 138 National Guardsmen be deployed to work full-time in the prisons. Quote, listen to this. Your letter is yet another example of the desire to play political games, and this time you are involving our brave National Guardsmen and women as pawns. Secretary Joe Proferi had a plan to safely reopen beds with no additional personnel needed. If the board wants to reactivate beds, then they should reinstate the secretary and implement his plan without delay. I will not inject our guardsmen and women into a purely political situation caused by the very person requesting them. You suspended Secretary Proferi and filed frivolous litigation against the state, resulting in great expense to our taxpayers, all in an effort to maintain the status quo. The status quo in Arkansas is exactly what placed us in this situation. It is clear the Board of Corrections is incapable of rational, reasonable, or fiscally responsible decision-making under Magnus's leadership. There have been a series of clashes between the Board of Corrections, this is Wickline, Sanders, Proferi, and Attorney General Tim Griffin that began last month after the governor called a news conference seeking to pressure board members into supporting her request to add 622 beds at several state facilities. Magnus asked Sanders to activate 138 National Guardmen to bolster state prison staff, the Department of Corrections announced Thursday. Now it's Friday. Magnus made the request in a letter to Sanders on Wednesday to help fill in staffing gaps. According to the letter, the guardsmen would receive correction. Okay, we already know all this. They wouldn't directly supervise. Okay, the strategy is new to Arkansas, but it's been tried. Okay, so that's exactly like copy and paste from the previous article. Anyway, so that is essentially where we are right now. I didn't see this coming. In my 2023, predictive cards, if you're looking at your bingo card, I guess I didn't see this one coming. I definitely saw it with the education, I definitely saw it with the education, the LEARNS Act, because nobody likes change. Now, but the real question here is with the Department of Corrections and the criminal justice reform, the real question is legally, what actually happened when it comes to the Arkansas Constitution and this Amendment 33? So, what is Amendment 33? Because this is what the Board of Corrections is claiming has been violated by the new criminal justice law, and a judge is going to have to decide this. Amendment 33 was the first of three. This is going to go to the Supreme Court. Arkansas Supreme Court. Amendment 33 was the first of three constitutional amendments ratified by voters in the decade after the beginning of World War II. Now, according to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, this was to try to curb political interference with large government agencies and institutions. It prohibited the governor and the Arkansas General Assembly from diminishing the powers of state agencies and institutions, as well as from interfering with their governing boards by dismissing members before their terms expired or increasing or reducing the membership of the boards. Interesting. I remember back during the Hutchinson administration, remember the big dust-up when Asa was trying to manipulate the farm board over dicamba? And, that was just a huge deal. Really just kind of exposed how, in that case, Asa wanted control of the farm board, and it made a lot of farmers really, really mad. I made more friends with more farmers and people in the ag industry when that was going on than I had in my entire career covering politics. People reaching out, very grateful for the coverage that was being done. All right, let's look at some more of this. So the amendment was ratified in 1942. Now, why did they pass Amendment 33 in the first place? According to the Arkansas Encyclopedia. And again, this is the amendment that they're citing as saying, hey, look, the new Criminal Justice Reform Act they're saying it's unconstitutional because, it's taking power away from the Board of Corrections and it's giving it to the governor's office, and Amendment 33 was designed to keep that from happening. That's their claim. So why did they do it? Well, it's right here. The amendment ratified in 42 followed Governor Homer Adkins' purging of the board of the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville in order to fire the university's president, J. William Fulbright, who was the son of a political foe of the governor. The amendment was aimed at protecting state colleges from such interference in the future, but it included charitable, penal, and correctional institutions as well. Correctional institutions. This is how they are challenging this law, or at least this is the legal theory. It may be a novel legal theory. It may not be. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not an attorney. And I'm certainly not an expert on the Arkansas Constitution. Subsequently, another amendment. So that's Amendment 33. And this is honestly, if I'm being real, this is the actual reason I wanted to cover this story. And it has nothing to do with prisons and everything to do with your right to hunt and fish. According to the Arkansas Encyclopedia, after Amendment 33 was passed, subsequently another amendment adopted in 1944, Amendment 35, ensured the independence of the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, and another in 1952 protected the Arkansas Highway Commission. You know, there's something called a white whale in politics. Everybody's got a white whale in politics. Something that just kind of gets in your crawl and just sticks there and won't go away. I'm not going to lie. This is my white whale. I'll just tell you right now. It just always gnaws at me, especially when you see that scene in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. We're starving. We needed the meat, when the kid's being persecuted for killing one of the king's deer. Anyway, this is the learning experience, or something that I think we can learn from. I don't know. This really, I don't even think is debatable. I mean, say what you want about Amendment 33 and the criminal justice. I think with Arkansas, change comes so slow because we're such a bureaucratic state. But I honestly don't think. I think if you polled, and I don't know this because there are some that like the subjugation. They have like some sort of Stockholm syndrome about it. But I think if you polled Arkansas on Amendment 35, which essentially gives Arkansas Game and Fish dictatorial-like powers in the state of Arkansas, and the state legislature can't really even pass a law to govern them, really. They really have very little oversight. I think Arkansans would roundly say that Amendment 35, giving the Arkansas Game and Fish essentially unchecked authority, was a giant mistake. That's what I think. A giant mistake. Where you just have really no checks and balances. And that's just my opinion. And that's not to diminish the people that work for the Arkansas Game and Fish or anything like that. I know there are good people that work there, and it's an institution, and it's got a mission that, according to the law, has to be pursued and fulfilled. It doesn't always have to be that way, though. But you're not going to see that. You got a lot of people that want to put stuff on the ballot to try to correct injustices or try to, I don't know, make us smoke more pot or whatever. But you don't ever see people trying to correct Amendment 35, which gives, just unchecked power, from what I can tell. But you do have some of the courts that have certainly reined in their anti-Fourth Amendment positions, where they actually have less authority, according to court precedent, jurisprudence, correcting what they were trying to do, demanding to see people's papers like some sort of wildlife Gestapo. Anyway, so yeah, that's the story. To recap, we have this breaking news where we have Sarah Sanders is now calling on Benny Magnus to resign. It's back and forth, this power struggle that's going on. And there it is right there. And then we have this story, Board of Corrections Chairman seeks activation of National Guard. That was yesterday. Going back even further, Arkansas Prison Board Magnus to sue the state, try to suspend the Secretary of Corrections. And it all started, I think it started a few days before this, but the Arkansas Corrections Board responds to criticism, defends decision against more prison beds. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think about this. Feel free to sound off in the Facebook comments. I mean, I understand and I can hear it really from both sides. Actually, I mean, I guess I would just say anytime the status quo is being changed, you're going to have pushback from it. You certainly have pushback from it. But at the same time, you also have this pesky Amendment 33. I mean, it says it right there that correctional boards are in there. So I don't know. What I wonder is was this even anticipated when they were writing the criminal justice reform bill, which was it was a lengthy process. That was one of the closest kept, that back during the legislative session, that was one of the closest kept secrets. They wrote the bill basically the entire session, and it was something that they rolled out at the end, right? Which is typical. A lot of times that happens when you're doing big pieces of legislation. But I wonder if they anticipated this. I wonder if anybody told them, "Hey, Amendment 33, and we're moving the authority around. This may be a problem," But you know what I find interesting? There really wasn't a lot of people that told the previous administration no. I mean, you had that dust up with the Farm Board, but I mean, it really didn't. There wasn't a lot of people that told Asa no. But I feel like there's a lot of people that are telling Sarah Huckabee Sanders no. And of course, the media, the mainstream media, is definitely eating that up. I hope everybody out there has a very Merry Christmas. Those of you who have followed me for a long time, you know that Christmas is one of my favorite times of year. No more let thorns and thistles grow. I think I got that wrong. Or thorns infest the ground, but he comes to make his blessings known far as the curse is found. So Merry Christmas to you and to yours, and I can't wait to continue covering as much as I can what goes on in the inner workings of Arkansas politics here at Conservative Arkansas Media. My name is Paul Harrell. Have a Merry Christmas.